All right, this is the Runner's Core Fit Challenge. So before we get started with the program, we're just going to talk a little bit about the conceptual framework for core training and how it pertains specifically to runners. So lower back problems, lower back pain is the most common orthopedic complaint across the board for athletes, for non-athletes, just in general. Strengthening the core, and the research shows that people that are doing this have less likelihood for developing problems, and those that are doing core training, if you do develop a problem in the lower back, it's typically less severe and you overcome it quicker. So it's something that we should all be thinking about, we should all be incorporating into our routines and that kind of thing. And so there are different types of core training, there's different types of exercises and how you can program your training for the core. When it comes to runners, obviously runners need primarily endurance. So core strength is not necessarily the best approach for helping a runner have a good, fit, and efficient spine. We want to be thinking more about core stability, endurance. Core strength is more defined as the muscle's ability to generate power, to generate force over a shorter period of time. And a runner needs to be able to have a lower level of muscle activity that can sustain over a very long duration. The other thing that we want to think about with core stability is thinking about the little rotatory movements that occur with running, the reciprocal pattern of movement in the lower and upper extremity. And so stability really is defined as a muscle's ability to prevent movement in one area to liberate movement at an adjacent area. So when we're running, we want the muscle in the core to be able to really manage and stabilize that rotatory movement in the spine to allow the upper body and the legs to move freely. And then we need that ability to occur over a long period of time. So without adequate core stability, really what happens in the lower back is much like taking a metal hanger and just bending it repeatedly in one spot over and over. And eventually that hinge point is going to become weakened and it's going to wear excessively. So if we can train the muscle in the core to help control excessive movement in this area and be stable over time and allow the upper and lower body to move freely, then we're going to be in much better shape. So these exercises in this program are designed to address that, to minimize motion here. That's what you're really going to focus on, is trying to prevent any movement happening here, but encourage a lot of motion happening at the extremities at the same time. There are 15 exercises in the program. Your goal is to perform each exercise for a minute with minimal rest in between each exercise. If you start out with 10, 15, 20, or 30 seconds per exercise, that's fine. Your goal is just to work up to a minute per exercise. And again, if you minimize the rest in between, if you can just sequence from one exercise to the next, that's going to be a very challenging 15-minute program, but it's really going to be encouraging you to be able to hold these positions for an extended period of time. A minute is a good benchmark. If you can do these challenging positions and movements for a minute, it extrapolates into your ability to have a stable core over a much longer duration of time. So let's go ahead and get started with the program. The first exercise is what we're going to call a V-sit crossover. I'm going to go through these movements fairly quickly just so you can see all the exercises, and obviously you'll perform them for much longer. First exercise, we're going to get into the V-sit, which is this position here. We're trying to keep our chest out as much as possible, keep the legs elevated, and then we're going to cross over like this. So this is going to induce, the legs are going to induce a rotation force at the spine that we have to control with the core. So if you need to put your hands down for a little bit of stability at first, you can. This is going to be more challenging. This is going to be much more challenging, as you can see. The next exercise is called a prone crossover swimmer. Very much the same thing. You're just going to now lay down on your stomach like this. You're going to elevate the arms and the legs, and you're going to cross your legs over here. You can get the arms involved too. We're doing this reciprocal crossing over pattern with the arms and the legs. Next exercise is what we call a V-sit arm swing. So we're going back to that V-sit position again, but instead of inducing the rotation from the legs, we're going to induce rotation from the upper body. So back into V-sit and pump the arms. You can make it more challenging if you wanted to combine movements, and you can get a little bit of a running action with the legs if you want to make that a little bit more difficult, which is going to be extraordinarily challenging to perform for a minute. So we would prefer the exercise to be done over a long period of time, opposed to the exercise being so difficult that you can only perform it for 10 seconds at a time. So you want to be able to hold that nice and stable and just hold for a duration of time. Next exercise is called a mountain climber. You're going to get into a push-up position like this, and then you're trying to prevent your back from sagging. You don't want it to be up too far. Be pretty neutral, and then you're going to run in place like this. The next exercise is called a prone swimmer. And you're going to lay on your stomach and you're going to perform little flutter kicks with your arms and your legs. Very similar to the crossover, but this one is not inducing a rotatory force where the other one was. Next exercise is called a shoulder tap plank. Back into the push-up position. Your hands are going to be close together. Your feet are going to be a little bit wider apart. It makes it a bit easier to do that. And then you're going to tap your shoulder, trying to prevent this, the torsion of the pelvis. You want to prevent that. When you lift up an arm, you have an unsteady tripod. You have your feet and one arm off center. So by lifting one arm, your shoulder is going to want to dip and twist. The only thing keeping you stable is that core muscle firing and holding that steady. Next exercise is a side plank. So we're going to do this. Sometimes people will do a side plank from the forearm down like this. And then sometimes people do it with the arm like this. You're just going to hold the position. Again, you need to make this more challenging. You certainly can by reaching through and then coming back up like this and trying to follow your hand with your eyes. This is really going to challenge those rotation forces and get the lateral stabilizers involved. Next exercise is simply performing that same thing on the other side. Next exercise is what we call a supine plank with leg kick. So what you're going to do here is get on your forearms, on your elbows, legs out straight, and I'm going to lift up my midsection here, like that. You could just simply hold this. This is pretty challenging to do. If you need to make this more challenging, if you lift a leg again, that's going to want to induce a rotation force, so it adds another level or another dimension of challenge to the exercise. So here, 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 just like so. Next exercise is called an alternating single leg bridge. So you're going to get onto your back, bridge position, your feet pretty close together, and you're going to go kick, kick, kick. Again, you want to prevent this, where the pelvis is just rocking side to side. If your arms are out like this, that's easier, gives you stability. If your arms are totally off the ground, it becomes more challenging, just like so. The next exercise is called a running bird dog. So a bird dog exercise is where you bring your arm and your leg out like so. We're going to add another component to it where you have to bring your elbow and your knee together like this. So what you're looking for here is not to raise up as far as you can, but to get as long as you can. So you're going to try to reach and extend that leg out as far as you can. Make your body long, and then bring this in. Now, people that don't have adequate hip mobility, that's going to be a problem because you're going to have to flex in to get the knee and the elbow to touch. So you should be able to get that to touch with minimal collapse. So that's something to look for with that exercise. And you can perform that as quick as you would like. Here, like so. Again, that exercise is going to be performed. Same thing on the other side. That's the next exercise. After that, you're going to do a sit-up with a twist. So your arms can be across your chest or behind your head. This would be the easiest. This would be position 1, position 2, position 3 in terms of progressive difficulty. So if you were doing a sit-up type of a motion here, and then you twist when you get to the top. So it doesn't have to be a lot of twist. We don't need that. But it's getting those obliques to fire and get that twist going right there. The next exercise is called a single leg runner's deadlift. So with this, you'll typically need a little bit of weight. So if you had dumbbells, kettlebells, really anything that you can hold on to. I mean, sometimes I'll even have people, if they've got a backpack and they can throw books or whatever, anything that you can add some weight to, and then hold the handles or straps of the backpack. You'd be fine doing this exercise that way. I'm going to show it with a couple of kettlebells, but basically what you're going to do is keep your chest out and shoulders down and back like this. And then what you're going to do is keep the knee straight, well, fairly straight. You can unlock it, but you're going to try to keep your trunk, your shoulder, my hip and my knee, the knee that's going back, in one straight line. So chest out. I can bend my knee that's in the front slightly, and I'm going to try to tip to where my trunk and my leg are parallel to the floor. Then I'm going to drive my leg all the way up. This would be more challenging at first. This is going to really push your balance. So at first, if you were doing this to this, that's fine. But now we want to complete the sequence like this. Again, really now what we're training, the core's got to be stability, got to be stable. The hip that's in stance leg, it's got to be stable. The opposite side is liberated to move through a full range of motion across another stable base, being the core and opposite hip. So it's a great exercise for running. It'll work the hamstring, works the glutes. You'll feel it there for sure. And then the next exercise is just switching and performing that same thing on the other side, like so. And that completes the program. So enjoy, go ahead and work up to that 60-second mark on each exercise, and get your core strong, get healthy, enjoy the run. Thanks for watching.